Welcome to Healing with Propolis and Making Remedies. Now, how many of you include honey and propolis in your first aid kits? Now, I'm Carolyn Gibson of Dogwood Gardens, and this is my husband, Gerald. We were beekeepers but had to give them up when he became allergic to bee stings. We are now growing pollinator plants. We specialize in Texas pollinator plants for honeybees. We sell them at the honeybee schools and clubs. Now, much of this information in this presentation is with the many recipes are in my book and on YouTube. I have a Carolyn Gibson herbalist, videos on making propolis tinctures with alcohol, making propolis oil, how to add honey and propolis to your lotions, balms, ointments, and salves. Now, my newest book, Homemade Skincare Workbook, has all the recipes except for the one on making a propolis honey gel, and you'll just have to get that off YouTube. Now, my research for this presentation, it came from my books in my personal library, healthywithhoney.com, beepothecary.com, their blog, greenmedinfo.com, and the National Institutes of Health, a part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. NIH is the largest biomedical research agency in the world. Disclaimer first, this presentation is for information only. It is not meant to be taken as medical advice. It is not meant to be a substitute for consulting with your health care provider. Now, there are many promising studies on all bee products, from honey to propolis to bee venom for cancer. Now, I'm not covering any of that, but you can certainly go to this link to see what they have to say. You're not guaranteed honey for your hives, but you are guaranteed propolis. Now, can anyone guess what this is? When we tore into a hive where all the bees had died, we found this in it. And we were thinking maybe it was a mouse that the bees had propolised up. But at the time we had bees, we were using these handy wipes to trap beehive beetles. So guess what that was? At one time, beekeepers hated propolis. But now that the healing benefits have been rediscovered, we love it. Bee propolis has been used since ancient times for healing wounds, ulcers, sores, and to soothe inflammation. In the 17th century, bee propolis was listed in the London Pharmacopoeia. Now, Russians were great beekeepers. Who would have thought of great beekeepers in such a cold climate? Bee propolis was considered the Russian penicillin. As far back as 1812, the Russians kept barrels of honey to feed the troops. Then the nearly empty barrels that contained honey and streaked with propolis was sent to the doctors to treat amputated limbs. It worked as an antibacterial while increasing the rate of healing. In World War II, it was used to treat battle wounds. In 1854, during the Crimean War, Florence Nightingale used propolis along with her crusade for cleanliness to greatly improve the survival rate among soldiers. Propolis is harvested by honeybees from the resins of plants, mostly poplar trees and conifer trees. Now, some flowers that contain resin would be rosemary and calendula. Now, propolis is only as good as where the bees collect the resin from. Brazilian propolis has a reputation for being the best and has some of the best research behind it. Now, that does not mean that yours is not as good. It just means you don't have research behind yours. Now, propolis from tropical regions is the least effective. Now, normally, propolis contains 50% resins, 30% waxes, 10% essential oils, 5% pollen, and 5% plant debris. Now, the last time I harvested propolis, my honeybees evidently did not get the memo. My last batch of propolis oil had way too much beeswax in it. When I strained my propolis oil into a bottle, it was so thick I could not get it out. I had to reheat it and put it in a jar. Now, there are several ways to extract propolis. There's alcohol, glycerin, oil, water, whole propolis material, and powdered propolis in capsules. Alcohol is the most effective way to extract the properties of propolis, but it will burn when applied to wounds. The glycerin still burns, but not as much. Oil tinctures are the best for treating wounds and burns. Water can be used, but it must be used that day, which would also be good for your eyes. Now, the disadvantage of extracts or tinctures are that only the soluble properties of the propolis is extracted and absorbed by the body. But the disadvantage of whole propolis is our bodies cannot break it down and absorb all of the properties. Now, the advantages of powdered propolis would be the smaller pieces make the propolis more absorbable by the body. And powdered propolis can be added to honey, salves, toothpaste, etc. Now, we can make our own alcohol and glycerin tinctures and propolis oil from our own propolis. We might even suck on a hunk of propolis. Your extract will be more effective if you break your propolis chunks into smaller pieces. Now, this is done by freezing it first and then beating it with a hammer. Now, I like to put my propolis in a plastic bag and then inside of a cloth bag first. Now, when making a propolis alcohol tincture, 130 proof alcohol will give you the best alcohol tincture, which we call that Everclear. But it can be as easy as keeping a bottle of your favorite scotch, whiskey, vodka, anything that's 80 proof, and just dropping your propolis into the bottle. You will have better extraction if you freeze it first and then break it up with a hammer into smaller pieces. Now, Rick from the Central Texas Beekeepers Association has a straw with a strainer built in, and he just has a little sip each day for his health. Now, the folk method would be to fill any size canning jar, 1/3 to half full of propolis, add alcohol to the top of the jar, seal it, shake it 2 times a day for 2 to 3 weeks, and strain. But if you want to be more precise and know your strength, to make a 10% strength, you would weigh 1 part propolis, weigh 9 parts of alcohol, mix it in a jar with a tight-fitting lid, store in a dark place, shake 2 to 3 times a day for 2 to 3 weeks, and strain it. And of course, you could add more parts of propolis to increase the strength. Now, according to Bee Apothecary, 10% strength is all that you need. It is hard for alcohol to absorb more than 30%. Now, if you want to make your tincture even stronger, once you made your alcohol tincture, you would leave the lid off and let part of the alcohol evaporate to make a stronger tincture. Now, all of your propolis will not dissolve. You can refreeze the remaining propolis and use it one more time. Now, glycerol is the chemical name for glycerin. This reflects that it belongs to the general family of alcohol. Ethanol is your grain alcohol, methanol is your wood alcohol, isopropanol is your rubbing alcohol like you buy in the drugstore. Now, glycerin or glycerol has a much higher boiling point than the other alcohols and does not evaporate like the other alcohols, but instead absorbs moisture from the air. Now, glycerin can come from the soap making process, or it can be food grade coming from plants like palms. You need to read your label, make sure it says vegetable glycerin and food grade. Now, you can make a glycerin tincture much like you do alcohol tincture with these exceptions. Glycerin must first be diluted with water before using. That's 6 parts of glycerin to 4 parts of water. And you want your water boiled, and distilled water is preferred. So for this recipe, we're taking 6 ounces of glycerin, 4 ounces of forward distilled water, which gives us a total of 10 ounces for our glycerin water mixture. And to make this even more potent, you could first moisten the propolis with Everclear and let it set overnight. Now, you could take 3 to 4 ounces of the propolis that you soaked in Everclear overnight, 10 ounces of the glycerin water mixture, shake it 2 times a day for 2 to 6 weeks, and then strain it into a dark colored bottle. Now, research shows that propolis is better extracted with a little heat. Now, I do this by pouring the propolis mixture into a smaller jars with lids and placing it in a yogurt maker overnight. And you can watch my YouTube video showing how to do this by following this link below. Now, once you've made a propolis glycerin, you're now ready to make a propolis gel. And you can also watch this on YouTube by following the link. We have simple ingredients: 4 tablespoons of propolis glycerin, 2 tablespoons of raw natural honey, and a ½ teaspoon of xanthan gum. Or a smaller recipe would be 1 tablespoon of propolis, a ½ tablespoon of honey, and 1/8 teaspoon of xanthan gum. Using another container, I add a small amount of the propolis glycerin mixture to the ½ teaspoon of xanthan gum, making sure it is completely dissolved, and then start stirring in the rest of the glycerin mixture. Now, you may think that the xanthan gum did not make much of a difference, but wait until the next day and it will have thickened to a nice gel consistency. Now, it does make a difference which brand of xanthan gum that you use. Now, you can buy Bob's Red Mill xanthan gum in the baking section of your grocery store. You can also buy xanthan gum where they sell cosmetic and lotion ingredients, and this will make your gel thicker, and you can follow the link to watch on YouTube me showing you the difference. Now, propolis oil can be treated much like an alcohol extract. The simple folk method: fill any size canning jar with 1/3 to half full of propolis and fill the jar with oil. Shake 2 times a day for 2 to 6 weeks and strain. The big difference is, however you extract it, everything needs to be absolutely dry. Oil does not grow bacteria, but moisture does. To be more exact and to know your strength, weigh 10 grams of propolis, measure 200 mils of oil, and olive oil is preferred for healing salves. Olive oil has a distinct aroma which may interfere for lotions and creams, so I use grapeseed oil if I know I'm going to be making lotions with it. Now, the no heat method would mix it in a sealed container, shake daily 2 to 3 times for 2 or more weeks, strain and pour that into a dark colored bottle. But what if you want it faster? Heat it in a double boiler for 10 minutes to an hour, no lid. Watch the temperature and make sure it stays under 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you can let that set overnight. Now, once the oil is completely cool, you could cover it with a lid. Now, another way would be to put it in a yogurt maker. And once again, no lid. You do not want condensation to form in the oil. Now, I put the ring on my jar just to kind of make a gap between the jar and the top of the yogurt maker. And notice the gap between the cover and the base. And once again, to make a more potent oil, you could moisten the weighed propolis with Everclear and let it set overnight. And of course, once you've got your propolis oil, then you could make a salve by heating the propolis oil and the beeswax together. Now, the standard recipe would be 5 tablespoons of propolis oil to 1 tablespoon of beeswax, or 2 tablespoons of beeswax if you're making tubes. And then if you wanted the essential oils, you could add 10 to 20 drops, and a ½ teaspoon of vitamin E. Or if you're weighing it in grams, that would be 60 grams of oil to 10 grams of beeswax. Now, everyone wants to add honey to the salve. Who wouldn't? It's so healing. But you can mix your honey in that salve, and you're just thinking it's looking wonderful. And when the salve hardens up, look on the bottom of your jar, and there all your honey is on the bottom. Now, you can add honey to your salve by first getting your salve kind of cooled off where it's almost hardened, and then adding the honey to it, and then just stir until your salve finally hardens up. Now, honey, propolis glycerin, or alcohol tinctures can be added during the water phase of lotion making. And propolis oil can be used in the oil phase. You can add a little or add a lot. Now, water extraction is the least effective, so there's really not much information out there on making a water extraction of propolis. You could either just soak it in water or simmer it in water, making sure you kept the heat really, really low. Heat will extract more of the properties while destroying other properties. Now, why would you want a water extraction? It would be good as a soak or to use as a compress. Water extraction would be the only choice if you wanted it for your eyes. And I don't know that this is a home project. I think I would want something commercially made before I tried to do this on my own. Propolis is effective against gram-positive bacteria that causes wound and urinary tract infections, gastrointestinal distress, and diphtheria. It's very effective against respiratory infections like strep throat, sinus infections, and scarlet fever. Now, propolis is effective against some gram-negative bacteria that causes pneumonia, bronchitis, and some wound infections, but it is not effective against many other gram-negative bacteria. So as you can see, propolis is not effective against all bacteria, but propolis by itself may not be effective in some cases, but would make an antibiotic work better. Now you can use propolis tincture as a gargle by just adding a little bit to little warm water and gargle to prevent illnesses. Or if you develop a sore throat, the propolis will not only help the infection, it will have a numbing effect on the throat. And also you can use this as a spray, but eventually it will stop up your sprayer. Now mouth rinses and toothpaste containing as little as 0.5% is effective against oral bacteria, mouth sores, and periodontal disease. And of course, this depends on the severity. If you've waited too long, there comes to a point where nothing helps. You can add a bottle of propolis extract to your mouthwash, add propolis extract to a little water, spray propolis extract directly on the gums or dab a little on with a Q-tip. 10% is the strongest strength you want to use. After that, it becomes sticky. And if it is not well filtered, you will have bits of propolis or wax stuck to your teeth. Now you can use a stronger strength, 30 to 50%, to seal off irritated or exposed nerve endings from the air to reduce pain. Now 50% or stronger alcohol tincture could be used as a liquid Band-Aid. But remember, it is alcohol and it will burn. Now, at one time, everyone was automatically spreading an antibiotic salve on every little wound, cut, and scratch. Now, this led to antibiotic-resistant bacteria just like the oral antibiotics do. Now, a fresh cut or wound is not yet infected, so an antibiotic was not needed. However, an antiseptic can be used to prevent infection. Use propolis as an antiseptic. Propolis complex compounds make it difficult for bacteria to develop resistance. A mixture of honey and propolis makes a great wound dressing, working as an antiseptic, stimulating new tissue growth, helping the wound grow together quicker with less scarring. Now, if you have powdered propolis, you could add that to your honey. You could mix a propolis alcohol or glycerin tincture with the honey. However, you cannot mix honey with propolis oil. Honey is water soluble and will not work with the oil. Or you could just use propolis oil, balm, or salve. Now, propolis is an effective antifungal. It's shown to be effective against the same funguses that causes ringworms and other tropical skin diseases and scalp fungal diseases. Now, it is effective against the funguses that cause skin and nail infections, candida yeast infections, but remember, if the fungal diseases are deeply embedded, propolis will not be effective. Now, propolis is effective against the herpes simplex virus. Just apply propolis tincture, oil, or salve directly to the coat sore. Propolis has been called an all-natural aspirin. The bioflavonoids in propolis block or inhibit the same enzymes as aspirins that causes inflammation and fever. Now we keep propolis alcohol in a roll-on or spray bottle for insect stings. Now my favorite first aid spray, I call it my honey propolis burn spray, and although its main purpose is to cool off burns, it can also be used for all minor wounds. And I have a sample for you over on our table. And you can easily make this burn spray at home. Keep this burn spray in the refrigerator for instant relief that will both cool off the burn and help heal the burn, and use it to ease and heal minor injuries. All you need is some commercially prepared 4 ounces of aloe vera juice, 1 teaspoon of propolis tincture, 1 teaspoon of honey, a quarter teaspoon or more of essential oil of lavender. First, mix the propolis alcohol tincture and the honey in the stirring container to dissolve the honey. Now, I like to use at 30% strength. And we know how honey will not dissolve in cold liquids very well. So it would not dissolve in the aloe vera juice, but will dissolve in the alcohol-based propolis tincture. Now add the aloe vera juice and stir, and then add in the essential oils of lavender. Now, more than a quarter teaspoon of essential oil of lavender could be used. Now, the essential oil itself of lavender is well known for healing burns and treating injuries. I just find the aroma of the essential oil of lavender to be overwhelming at a stronger strength. Now, you may not. Now, you can store this in the refrigerator, use immediately on burns and minor injuries. Now, you will need to shake this each time that you use it. Essential oils or oil, so they do not mix with the water ingredients. Now, minor burns can easily be treated with this burn spray. I use it often in the kitchen when I burn myself, but more serious burns may require honey and bandaging. Now, when you get burned, use honey first. Do not use propolis oil or salve. Never put oil or salve on a fresh burn. Propolis will be great for burns once the burn has started to heal. You want to first cool off the burn and either apply honey or the burn spray or both. A propolis salve or ointment can be applied after the burn has started healing. A study comparing Brazilian propolis cream to a silver sulfadazine salve treating minor burns showed those using the propolis cream showed less inflammation and more rapid closure. Now, for an earache, add a few drops of warm propolis oil into the ear and use a cotton ball to prevent the oil from leaking out. Then you would rub the propolis oil on the outside of the ear as well as the glands of the throat. Now, to prevent swimmer's ear, add a few drops of propolis alcohol tincture inside of the ear, and then turn the head so the tincture runs out of the ears. Use a propolis ointment or lotion several times a day for psoriasis, eczema, dermatitis of all kinds, skin rashes, and diaper rashes. Warts and corns. Now, warts are caused by a virus. Common warts are caused by the human papillomavirus. Warts are a signal that you need to boost your immune system. Propolis works about 75% of the time. You need to apply a 50% strength alcohol propolis tincture at least 2 times a day and cover the wart with a bandage. And take a dropperful of propolis tincture or 1,000 mg of propolis capsule at least once a day. Now, propolis can remove a wart in as little as 2 weeks, or it could take 3 months. And I hope I've inspired you to include honey and propolis in your first aid kit.